everyone, I'm Steven Sigman.
I'm Mike Messinio.
And this is the weekly movie Throwdown, where each week we look at two films that have some similarity and we talk through which one is the better film. This week, a lot of fun. It's going to be a throwdown between two legendary comedies from our Lord's year of 1980. We have the Abrams Zucker film Airplane versus Harold Ramis's Caddyshack. Legendary films really just sort of laid the groundwork for a lot of things that came after them. And I'm looking really forward to talking about that. Before we do, any wins of the week, Mike?
My only win of the week is the actual win that broke the Mets' 12-game losing streak, which was the most brutal thing I've had to sit through in quite some time. So that was probably the win of the week, which is just, thank God, I don't have to deal with that anymore.
One of the week that I have is I went to see Mother Mary yesterday, which is the new film from David Lowery. Stars Anne Hathaway and Michaela Cole. These two women who have a past. Anne Hathaway is a pop star. She sort of has a feel of like Lady Gaga, a little bit. Well, I mean, a lot of Madonna, really. And Michaela Cole plays her friend who was kind of her costume designer, and we don't know what the relationship is beyond that, but Anne Hathaway is just a huge pop star and is kind of struggling a little bit, so she goes back to her roots and asks Michaela Cole to create a dress for this event that she's doing, and it's really like a chamber piece. It's almost all set in this studio where Michaela Cole is making this dress, and gets a little supernatural, as David Lowery's stuff tends to do, but there are flashbacks to performances from Anne Hathaway. The original music was done by FKA Twigs, who's in it, along with Charlie XCX and Jack Antonoff, who those two seem to do just about everything. But as David Lowery films go, they're always very like tactile and beautiful and just like supremely crafted, and this is a lot of that. So if you like his films, you'll really love this. I mean, there's so much care and like work put into it. There's a lot of like fabric cutting and just making of a dress. It feels a lot like Chef, like the food scenes in Chef, the way they're just like shot so lovingly. And there's a lot of that in this. I know Lowery's work is not for everybody, but if you like him at all, I mean, things like The Green Knight or A Ghost Story, you'll really like this, I think. So I'm a big fan, and it wasn't a perfect movie, but I really had a good time watching it. So check out Mother Mary if you can. The first of 6 films from Anne Hathaway this year, by the way. Jesus. That's amazing.
We call that the full Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, less profanity, probably. Okay, let's get into talking about Caddyshack and Airplane. I think this pairing is pretty obvious why we're throwing down between these two.
Yeah,
but
I actually didn't realize they both came out in 1980. I mean, I knew they both came out in the early 80s, but that's really something. I mean, talk about ground zero for just a complete seismic shift in not just movies, but comedy in general. I mean, both of these movies changed the vernacular of what comedy is.
And the Blues Brothers came out as well. I mean, like within a 2-month span, these 3 films came out. And I mean, the Blues Brothers has its own, footprint and culture. But I think if you're ranking them as far as, and we will rank them, later in the show, as far as like cultural imprint, these two are at the top because they really just kind of set templates for the things in the 80s that came after them and beyond.
Yeah, people always talk about bands that only people that loved bands kind of ended up listening to or loving, like people have a Velvet Underground in that way. I mean, in this case, these were both pretty popular movies, Airplane more so. But I mean, I don't know if any two things had more of an influence on the people who would go on to create comedy in the next 3 decades than these movies. And everyone from the Farrelly brothers to I mean, anyone, your Apatows, everybody basically points to, one of these two works as something that inspired them to go into doing comedy and shaped how they go about it.
Yeah, they're really just so important, which is crazy to say for comedies, but I think and this is an interesting year because, yeah, I see comedy and horror as very kind of close to each other on, like, the spectrum of emotions that you get from films. I'm not the only one who thinks that, but it's kind of a they both warrant visceral reactions. This is a year where Friday the 13th came out, which, Halloween sort of is the granddaddy of slasher films for the most part, but Friday the 13th really helped to pave the way for Nightmare on Elm Street and all of the wave of slasher films in the '80s, and The Shining also came out this year. So that's another just incredibly influential horror film. So just a really important year for genre, I think, and you can see the sort of the DNA of this year even today, which is I love it when there's a year like that because
Yeah.
they just change the game, and that's certainly what happened here. Um, what I find interesting about these films is that they're both a lot of fun and they're both very influential, but and super entertaining, but I don't know that they're either of them are actually good films from, like, a story standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to talk about, and anyone knows the history of how both of these were made. Uh, we could get into that. And I was going to talk about that. Which one actually feels more like a movie than the other? But you're absolutely right. I think that what you end up with, I mean, especially in terms of Caddyshack, is you end up with a script. Maybe we'll start talking about Caddyshack. But you start with a script that by some accounts was like 250 pages long. I mean, a really long script that centered on caddies. Brian Doyle Murray wrote it because based on his and his brothers working as caddies. And so that's really what the story was about. And that was the main storyline. When they get in to film it, they have all these huge comedy people and realize, well, maybe we should focus more on the other people. And I think the movie just becomes a completely different movie on the fly, like in the moment. I think the script basically gets thrown away and you end up having a whole bunch of improvised madness that ends up being a semi-coherent movie. But that is in no way what the movie was supposed to be or what they thought it would be, but this is the movie we end up with. And it may be funny, but yeah, I, we'll put it this way. It's not going to be in any screenwriting classes.
That's for sure, because like you said, so much of it was improvised, and this is kind of a famously, like, fraught production with a lot of cocaine and a lot of, just
I
people
think
who
cocaine got third billing in the credits.
yeah. But these were people who, for the most part, worked on Animal House, and so they had a little bit of an understanding of how to make a film, but Ramis is a first-time director, and it feels like, and you can read all about it in Chris Nashwati's book, Caddyshack, it feels like it was a free-for-all, and it certainly was, and that shows on screen, and a big part of that is just the cocaine, and the not knowing, who's gonna be there to shoot, who is going to be there to shoot, and, what Ramis turned into Warner Brothers
I'm sorry, just to
was
be
like a
clear, 1 second, just saying who's available to not who's there to shoot, but who's available and awake. Because everyone was basically
yeah,
staying in a hotel together.
right.
And there was just no guarantee that anyone was going to be up when shooting time started the next morning based on what had gone on the previous night. So just to be clear.
Yeah, and, that was a big problem for Ted Knight, right? Who
Right.
is the seasoned actor, very
That's what I
professional.
love. Art imitating life, imitating art, where I mean, Ted Knight really was his character throughout this movie. Just like, what
Yeah,
are these people doing? Like, I
yeah.
can't remember, why am I even here? He was
I
just trying
don't
to
know
keep it
that he
together.
stayed in the hotel.
I
Yeah,
don't
I think
believe that
he
he
was
did.
just so put off by the loose feel of everything because he comes from television, he's very, very much, there's a schedule, there's a script, And this had neither a schedule nor a script for the most part by the time it was over.
I think that's the thing. I think honestly, the outrage he has in this movie is pretty much real throughout the whole movie. I think that's just
Yeah.
him reacting in real time to what's going on.
It feels like a documentary for Ted Knight, really. But it's funny too because, this is we didn't even do an overview, but
Do
it's
we need
basically the
to?
story
I
of
mean,
yeah, I mean, everybody knows. But it's the story of this caddy essentially who's kind of down on his luck. He kind of comes from the other side of the tracks, needs money for college, so he wants to get in on this caddy tournament to get a scholarship. But that sort of goes away like halfway through the film, and it just becomes
yeah,
completely different.
I love that you mentioned that because going back and rewatching it, I completely forgot how this movie started.
Yeah,
Like we have no memory of the actual beginning, which is an actual beginning to an actual movie. This kid in this crowded house with his family and trying to get out the door and just this chaos that you see. And you're like, oh, we're going to follow this guy. And then no, it just takes a left turn into a completely different place. But yeah, it started as if it was going to be an actual movie that followed this kid.
but then ultimately, I think Ted Knight's character is at the center of it because everything happens to or because of him ultimately. So it really shifts from Danny, the caddy's POV, to following Ted Knight around for the most part. And I don't know if that's intentional or not, because that's part of the problem is when Warner Brothers received the footage from Harold Ramis, it was completely incoherent. So everything you see is done in the editing, and you can only do so much with what you're given. And I think that they did an okay job of editing together a narrative, but it's very much all over the place and just completely shifts from one story to another. And it's like 2 movies.
I mean, 2 movies. It's like 7 movies. I mean, because the Bill Murray gopher thing is like
Right.
completely disconnected from anything else that's happening. But you get a lot of that.
Yeah.
You get, I mean, Chevy Chase's character, I mean, is the one person that connects to Danny. So in a way, that works. But he has some weird scenes too. Rodney Dangerfield walks into a scene, and you're like, I don't even know what movie he's in, honestly.
He didn't either.
He just comes out and starts doing shtick. I mean, that's basically all that he's doing. And there's nothing wrong with that because, I mean, to a certain segment of the population, and I think we're part of it. I mean, Rodney Dangerfield is just the guy. I mean, he is so ingrained in what we think of his comedy. Going back to Johnny Carson, and he hosted the Young Comedian specials on HBO forever. So, I mean, we just have great affection for him. So watching Rodney do Rodney things is never not funny, but you're like, I don't understand what his purpose is in any of this. He just comes in, he starts spinning around in circles, which is great, but of no purpose
Yeah.
really. Other than to make Ted Knight angry, I guess, which
Right.
works. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like every time a new character comes in, the movie almost completely shifts to them, and then it goes somewhere else. It's really something to watch.
Yeah. This was Rodney's first film.
Yeah,
And he just had no sense of like what to do on a movie set,
and he was
basically.
reading the book, he was just completely racked with anxiety the entire time because he very much is obviously his persona isn't that far from how he is in real life. He's like riddled with insecurities, and he just does shtick to kind of cover with it. But my favorite thing about it, and I'm sure you read this, is that when he first came out and did his first scene, he was just sweating the whole time and was just a wreck because no one was laughing at anything that he said, and he couldn't understand it, so he thought he was failing. And they're like, Rodney, this is a movie set. You're not allowed to laugh because we need the audio track. And he had no idea. So he just thought that no one thought he was funny. And he was just racked with anxiety about not being laughed at with his jokes. I think that's amazing.
He's really interesting because his humor is so outsized in comparison to the rest of the humor in the film. I mean, I think there's an SNL kind of humor and a National Lampoon kind of humor. Like this is just a culmination of like 10 different kinds of humor, basically. And Rodney is at such a higher level of energy than anybody else, except
Well,
maybe
because
Ted
Rodney
Knight.
too. I mean, Rodney comes from the lineage. That's like the Henny Youngman one-liner kind of school. And that's just what he comes out. He's coming out just flinging one-liners left and right. You know, hey, how'd you like to make $14 the hard way? Whatever. Like all these,
Yeah.
like out of nowhere, just throwing line after line, which is not how anybody else works.
Every scene is just a real run of one-liners. Like every scene that Rodney's in feels like all of Airplane, where it's just joke, 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 joke. And people don't realize, but Rodney had been around. I mean, 30 plus years at this point when this film comes out, and was really a struggling comedian for a long time, and got a break. I don't remember who the guest was, but there's a great episode of WTF where they talk about Rodney Dangerfield's history and how he went from being like a siding salesman or something to getting this break, and just really becoming what he is. And uh, just such an influence on comedy. And this is the beginning of what would be sort of a checkered career in film for him, but
He
you
still
know, he had a
made
good run.
two classic movies as far as I'm concerned. I think Easy Money and Back to
Back to
School are
school.
still.
Yeah,
I think Easy Money though, people don't really remember that one. That's an underrated
yeah,
Rodney Dangerfield movie. I mean, because it was
yeah.
hard. It was a rated R. I think it was a bit of a harsher movie, and I think if we went back and rewatched it, there would be a lot of things that are probably objectionable in it. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's the first thing I ever saw Joe Pesci in too, because obviously I hadn't seen Raging Bull when I was a kid. It's the first time I'd ever seen Joe Pesci. I thought he was really funny in that movie.
I thought you meant Joe Piscopo for a second, and I
No,
was thinking Joe Piscopo is a Raging Bull. Be a different movie altogether. What I do like about this film and what I thought it was going to be at the beginning is, and I guess it is to some degree all the way through, is kind of like a blue collar struggle inside of a white collar world. And I always love that. I mean, it feels a little bit like Downton Abbey or
that is what it was supposed
Snowpiercer.
to be. That is actually
Yeah,
the movie that was supposed to be made.
yeah. And you know, you get that from Brian Doyle Murray's experience caddying. Did you ever caddy as a kid?
I didn't caddy for a year. I drove a beverage cart at a country club.
Really?
I did.
Did you have to deal with people like Smales?
I have to say, almost everybody there was very nice. I don't think it was a really fancy country club. To be honest, it wasn't that highbrow. So most of the people were pretty cool. And the best part about it is you paid for the drinks on a tab, but like
Mhm.
half the people didn't realize that, so they would just pay me in cash. But because but
Nice.
because they couldn't but because the cash wasn't valid, well, I could just keep it.
That feels like something that should be in Caddyshack.
I know it was pretty weird, and I don't understand how that was legal in any way, but that's what went on, and I made a decent amount of money on that.
Maybe they were nice to you because you were bringing drinks
I have no
and you
idea. The
weren't
best part though is
doing
that all the golf
anything else.
carts were electric except the beverage cart. It was by motor because it was heavy. And if you really wanted to F with someone, you could just gun it while someone was trying to take a shot and the engine would rev.
Wow.
That was a good time.
Were you part of Caddy Day at the pool?
No. The people that owned the snack shack, because it was connected to the snack shack, were completely unrelated to the rest of the country club. So I never talked to a caddy. I didn't meet any of those people.
Okay. Oh, there's so much potential there for an interesting
Yeah.
opportunity.
I mean, we can make a totally separate movie about the war between the snack people and the caddies. I mean, that would be, you can make a movie about that.
And it would be more cohesive than this.
Possibly.
Um, what else? I mean, there's just uh, so much cultural stuff that lasts in this film, and I think a big part of that is who's in it. You know, who's delivering those lines, because a lot of those lines are made up. So let's talk about the cast a little bit. Danny is Michael O'Keefe, who was nominated for an Oscar the year before
Yes,
this
it
for The Great
was.
Santini.
Isn't that something?
That basketball scene in The Great Santini, I watched it again when Robert Duvall died. That's good stuff. What a great movie. But it's very different than this,
It
obviously.
feels very Nick Cage to get an Oscar nomination and then make Caddyshack, giving off some Nick Cage vibes.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. What did you think of Michael O'Keefe in this?
You know, I really liked him and thought in a different universe, I would have liked to have seen this original movie with Michael O'Keefe as the caddy. I think there's a good movie there that would have been a good watch. I mean, would it have been a classic like this? No, I don't think so. But it would have been a nice movie to watch.
Yeah, I thought he was fine
And just for the
as
record, I have to say,
Splinter.
he is the only person in this movie that has an actual golf swing.
Yeah.
So credit to that. I don't know if he learned it, if he already knew it, but when he swings the golf club, you're like, wow, this guy's definitely played golf. There's not a single other person that you think that of when you watch this movie.
I guess we don't see Bill Murray play golf, but he's kind of known for doing that
Well,
now,
you do
so
actually in the one scene which is
he
completely
hit the
improvised where he
flowers.
pretends he's in the Masters, and you're right, his
Yeah.
swing is decent. He has the other swing that's good.
Wow. That's interesting. I mean, they show well, I guess they don't show Chevy Chase, like a wide shot of
Not
him
really.
hitting a golf shot. But he seems pretty good with his zen approach to getting every ball in the hole. Um, Ted Knight, we talked about him a little bit, but this guy's legendary for Mary Tyler Moore Show in the '70s.
Yeah, he's legendary when you look at his history. He didn't do that many things. Started out as a serious actor. Was fine. Gets the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which kind of changes his whole career. But that puts him on the map. But I mean, he does Mary Tyler Moore. There's the spin-off of the Ted Knight Show, but then he goes to Too Close for Comfort, which is the thing that's near and dear to my heart as an '80s kid. Like I remember that show really,
Love it
really
so
well.
much.
Yeah, I really love that show, and so that's the way we think of him. But yeah, I mean, he didn't do a ton of things, but he is just as it made an indelible mark as kind of just the overwrought, hysterical person, dealing with chaos. I just think, he has one of the top 5 reactions to chaos. I think Gene Wilder is always number 1 as far as I'm concerned. Like no one responds better to chaos than Gene Wilder. Jeez. Yeah. I mean,
It's pretty good at
Gene Wilder's reactions to like chaos is my favorite comedy thing of all time, I think. But Ted Knight is right up there.
I would assume this got him Too Close for Comfort because it's
Probably.
coming off of this and getting that. But uh, don't you think that's kind of like Full House before Full House in a way?
I don't
Set in
disagree.
San Francisco,
Yeah.
you know, has all everybody there. Man, I really loved his the little cow he drew
Yeah,
with
he's
the
he's an
puppet.
animator, yeah.
I might go back and start watching that again if it's available.
I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon Prime.
Really?
It's either Amazon
Okay.
Prime or Peacock, like one of those two places. I just saw it recently, so I know it's available somewhere.
I was actually thinking because I mean, jumping ahead a little bit, but one of the people in Airplane for like a second when Ted is in the infirmary. I don't know if you saw it, but it's Bill Kirchenbauer who played Coach Lubbock on Growing Pains and then went on to be the dad on Just the 10 of Us.
No, I
Do you
didn't
remember
notice
that?
that. I do remember that. I
Yeah.
didn't notice him.
So I was thinking about Just the 10 of Us, and I really loved that show and was thinking about going back and watching that. So now I have 2 '80s sitcoms to go back and watch. It's really filling up my schedule. um, you have to talk about the comedians in this. Just Chevy Chase. This is kind of like the start of a real run of like leading man roles for him because he's coming off of SNL. He left that in '77, something like that,
We left that for the
and
first
just
year, yeah. So 77, right? Well, 76
but
or
Bill, yeah, somewhere around there. He's just, he's actually pretty likable in this, which is surprising because I don't really like him
I
a
was
lot.
gonna say, remember when people liked Chevy Chase? Like, I mean, he was charming here. He just, no one knew much about him in reality.
Yeah.
So it was really, really likable. It was fun. This was his best period of time.
I mean, you can really see the trajectory into Fletch and Vacation. I mean, his filmography in the '80s is incredibly impressive,
So
and then it's all just downhill from there. But for a while there, he was really great, and this shows you why he was so likable, and just what he could do with the improv and physical comedy too is a big part of this, and that's what he's known for the
Yeah,
most.
and like
And
you mentioned, the scene where he's just puts all the balls in the putting green and puts them all in the hole. I think that was all improvised too. The whole na 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 scene, which a lot of golfers mimic now. I think he came up with that on the spot, or but he definitely wasn't in the script.
yeah, that no 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 isn't that where that happens?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's still on golf courses today, and
Yep.
one of many things that has carried into the golf culture that we'll talk about. But um, he's so good at just delivering a little dig with kind of like a straight face. Like, everything he does in this is like, "Oh, don't sell yourself short, Judge. You're an incredible slouch," or something like that, you know? So, I think that's part of his appeal is he's not he can be outsized, but he can also be very contained and still do things that
Yeah,
are
I know we'll
funny.
get to this later because this is actual a question that we do. But I mean, Chevy Chase could obviously have been an airplane without any problems because he's exactly the kind of actor that could deliver the lines that Airplane is.
Think about that. See, I was thinking well, we'll get to it later. Bill Murray, just,
I think,
like
yeah, this is a perfect example. Like Bill Murray's the perfect example of like what Caddyshack is in a way. I
yeah.
think he shows up. Obviously, his brother writes it. I think he wanted to be part of it. He was supposed to be there for like one day. You have a couple of minutes, and they just end up giving him half the movie. And I don't think the part's not even written. They're just like, just go do
Yeah,
stuff for days and days and days, and we'll film it. And it's a perfect example of how the movie ends up being what it is. So I don't think anything
and
that Bill Murray does in this movie is scripted at all. And yeah, they just keep giving him more
you
and more
feel
screen time.
that.
Hmm?
You feel that they've allotted for him after the fact, like they need a scene with Chevy Chase and Bill Murray. So, for some reason, Ty plays through at night, and
Right.
Bill Murray's like, I don't know,
Yeah, as if he would be practicing
horse-side
because he's
apartment?
nervous. I mean, he's Zen. That's the whole point. He wouldn't be
Yeah.
nervous. He certainly wouldn't be practicing in the middle of the night before the match. That doesn't make any sense for the character, but they needed a scene.
Yeah, it's really ham-fisted. I mean, you can feel
But
that it's
also,
completely cohesive.
you love it because you also know the history of Bill Murray and Chevy Chase, so that's why it's really good for people that love comedy, and you know that there's a long history of dislike between the two of them. Bill Murray took over for Chevy Chase after he left, and Chevy Chase used to take digs at him all the time. And as far as I know, there were like actual fist fights that happened a couple of times between the two of them. So putting them in the movie together is a nice little comedy nod. But again, that scene is really great because they're two very funny people, and they play off of each other really well.
Yeah. You feel the improvisation in it. I mean, you could tell that they're sort of thinking about it on the spot as they talk. So there's not like a lot of necessarily flow to that dialogue, but it's still super fun. And Bill Murray just spits in his living room for some reason. Okay. That's pretty funny.
I mean, that's it's a great Chevy Chase line too, where he's like, "This is your place." He's like, "Yeah, you like." He's like, "No, it's terrible." Like just the way he delivers that line is really something.
And he's like, "Oh, you live over on Briar or whatever?" He's like, "You have a pool there?" "Yeah, we have a pond in the you might be good for the
Right,
pond."
right.
Yeah, you can feel it, and that's super fun. Maybe you can feel a little bit that they don't get along. So there's, like, constant little I mean, that's what Chevy Chase does throughout the movie is these little digs, so that's, like, the perfect place for him to do it. Um, Obviously, this is Harold Ramis's first film and not super well directed because it seems like it just got out of hand. When people were asking for their per diems in cash so they could buy cocaine, like, the studio was like, "Wait a minute, what's going on here?" And send people down to put the reins on it, but, ultimately, the damage was done, and it's kind of a legendary production, and Warner Brothers didn't think it was gonna do anything. So, it's a really interesting story of how something that was such a calamity in the moment became legendary. Really, really
Yeah,
fascinating,
I
and
think at the end of the day, you just luck out because what you end up with is four comedy legends in a way in your movie. And I think that that alone is going to bring people to the theaters. I mean, I don't think anybody cared what the script was or anything. Those people are going to bring people into the seats, but it's become much larger because the golfing community really adapted this movie. I mean, we look at it as, I mean, it was kind of the Happy Gilmore before Happy Gilmore. Everybody kind of cites Happy Gilmore now, but Caddyshack was that movie for an entire generation of golfers.
yeah, it's interesting because there aren't a lot of golf films that have the impact the way like baseball has. We talked about The Natural and Field of Dreams, just which are just two of many. I think that sort of live on, and golf, you really have only those two, maybe Tin Cup,
Well,
but
I think it says a lot about what golf is to the culture as opposed to baseball. That even though I think that
yeah, that's
golf has
true.
become a larger sport and more people play it to I think than before, but it was always considered a snooty kind of sport for those people and not for regular people. And so that's why I think that the movies that were popular, the only popular movies about golf, are about people who take the piss out of golf.
Yeah.
And even in a way, like even people that love golf and are golfers enjoy taking the piss out of it. So I think that's why it works really well. That even they know they're playing like a snooty country club sport, and being able to laugh at it, I think, is something that makes them feel good about their sport too. So baseball doesn't really need that, but golf, yeah, I think that the only way average people can relate to it is to take it down a couple of pegs.
I would imagine the time of Caddyshack in 1980 was very much like the upper echelon of golfers. I don't know how many, like pitch and putts there were, or people who weren't in a country club playing golf or pro golfers. It feels a little more inclusive as the years go on, as far as like income levels and
More
uh,
public
just
courses,
everything.
and which, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't
So
know
I
about
think
you, but I mean, I grew up in a well, I guess a lower middle class neighborhood here in New York. It's like, did you know a single person that played golf? I didn't know a single person that golfed. No one.
can I tell you, I played golf as a teenager. Can you believe that?
Man. And also there was a country club like two towns away from us. And it took me years to even know what that was. Like I didn't even realize it was a golf course until I was like in my teens because I'd never seen one. I had no idea what it was. But it was like the really snooty neighborhood that was a few towns over. So yeah, I had zero connection to golf.
Just to sort of vindicate myself, I played on a pitch and putt course, and I played on public courses where it was like $40 for 18 holes, so it wasn't
Okay.
insane, and I couldn't play very often anyway because I was too poor.
Played the hell out of a
Um,
mini golf course though. There was
oh,
a
yeah.
great mini golf course by my house.
I befriended this guy who built an indoor mini golf course, and it was like the
Wow.
greatest thing I'd ever experienced. Yeah. It was super fun.
On a total side note, I think that golf becoming more popular has actually ruined mini golf. This is my theory, by the way. That
Why is that?
Yeah, so this is my theory about it. That mini golf used to be just for fun and for families, and it was just crazy windmills and obstacles, and it used to be fun. Now, a lot of these golf courses, like these mini golf courses, are just places I think where people go to practice putting, and it's just like the only obstacle is the green shift slightly, or
Yeah.
there's a hill. It's like that's not fun. I need some obstacle like a loop de loop, or that's why I mini golf. I'm not practicing my putting. I don't give a shit about that. Like, I just want to have fun. But yeah, I feel like they've turned mini golf courses into places where people can practice putting. That's why a lot of them are on driving ranges, like driving range and mini golf. It's like, that's not my connection to this. I do not want to play mini golf seriously or practice anything. I just want to get it through the clown's mouth. And there are so few of those, at least where I live. That's why whenever I'm away in a different state, like there's a good one in Pennsylvania, or yeah, I'm trying to think of another town I was in. Like when I pass one, there's a good one in Connecticut. Like I'll stop and I'll try to play because there are so few that have great obstacles. I found a good pirate themed one in a town in Pennsylvania, which I thought was super fun. So yeah, this is my theory. I think that golf becoming more of a regular sport has ruined mini golf.
maybe the designers have gotten lazy because if I recall correctly, it almost feels like all of the obstacles were paper mache or something.
You know
And
what it
so
is?
they
It's
probably
it's
had
possible they
passed.
broke over time and no one replaced
Yeah.
them. That's all. So now they're just
Yeah.
flat ground. Because yeah,
Exactly.
that maybe they're right.
They're
Maybe
like,
that's what happened.
but maybe, yeah, maybe they didn't want to rebuild because it seems like that's something you'd have to do over and over again. And, it only takes one club to one of those paper mache clown noses and it's going to break. So that might be, but I'm going to look for that now because I love a good mini golf course too. So I'm going to be thinking about it. Do you want to move on to Airplane or do you have anything else you want to say about Caddyshack before we
Yeah, I
do?
don't know what more you can say about Caddyshack. As I said, yeah, despite itself, it really is shocking. No one thought it would be successful. You look at it on paper and you're like, there's no way this should work. And yet the most of it is really fun. Just watching funny people do funny things, which is yeah, it really holds up in a strange way because it doesn't hold up at all. Because it doesn't hold together, it holds up, I guess.
Right. It's just a funny mess, and it's a funny mess from a certain time in history that I think we're very nostalgic for, with people from that time who have gone on to be different than what they were then in a way, but it's really, like, of a moment too, so I think that's what kinda makes it timeless
Yeah.
almost is
But yeah,
is
you're absolutely
it's
right. This
cemented
is,
in.
this group of people is your SNL Animal House wing of comedy. And then you get to Airplane, which is a completely different strain of comedy.
Yeah. Not to sidetrack that segue, but one thing I didn't mention is that one of the co-writers on this is Doug Kenny, who was the co-founder of National Lampoon, and just a genius. This guy, I think, what he and Henry Beard did at National Lampoon is like some of the best comedy writing that we're ever going to have, and he died shortly after this film was made. He actually went to Hawaii with Chevy Chase, and Chevy Chase left, and they thought this was going to be a huge failure. And there's some question around Doug Kenny's death where he basically fell off a cliff. He was walking by himself and fell off and died. So there's question around, did he slip? Did he kill himself? We don't know. Did it have anything to do with Caddyshack because this was such an incredible failure at the outset? But I think anything Doug Kenny's involved in, you should seek it out. And there's a there's a documentary about National Lampoon called something like "Drunk, Fat, Drunk, and Stoned" or something that
Yeah, I
is
think that's
just
right.
really really good. So if you like this film and you haven't already done a deep dive on National Lampoon and Doug Kenny, go do that. Uh, okay, Airplane, directed by the Zuckers and Jim Abrams.
Also, their first movie that they directed. They did the Kentucky Fried Movie, but they didn't direct that. John Landis directed that, if I
Yep.
remember right. So this was
He's
their
kind
direct.
of the one. He's in the middle of. He kind of connects all of this with Animal House, I think.
He does. You're right.
Yeah, it's
But he's
interesting.
connected to these guys, and he's the one that convinced them to make Airplane into a movie, actually. And they decided to take it on as their first directing. Fun little note that at the time, the Directors Guild only allowed one director to be uh, on the credits as the main director, so they had a fight to get an exception so the three of them could be on it.
Yeah, why? There are a lot of movies like that where multiple directors and they just can't get that credit, but it worked out here because they're all you know listed on it. This is a parody of the film Zero Hour from 1957,
Yeah, with a little bit of
and
airport thrown in.
yeah, it kind of pulls in something that was very popular at the time, which is these disaster films. One of which Leslie Nielsen was in, the Poseidon Adventure. He was the captain of the boat, and it just does such a great job of parodying
Yeah,
that
so
genre.
well, so just to set the scene here, so Kentucky Fried Movie was essentially a movie of sketches, and but these guys, the Zucker Abrams Zucker, they love doing like commercial parodies. and things. And there's some of that in Kentucky Fried Movie. So what the original plan was here when they discovered airport, when they discovered 0 Hour in Airport, was to make this movie, but to splice in commercial breaks all throughout it, which is where all the comedy would be. And the movie would be kind of funny, but there would be a lot of these funny commercial bits. And as they went along with it, they realized it wasn't funny, that it actually didn't work that way at all. And so they end up removing all of the commercial bits, and they end up with Airplane. I think Airplane is a great example of, how you have to approach comedy movies, but comedy in general. You write a bunch of stuff, and you have all of this comedy, because most of the time comedy is going to half work and not work. So you end up with this really long movie that has all these commercials in it. And then when they cut it down, they end up with a movie that's like an hour and 48 minutes long, I think. And they screen that, and it didn't really work either. So they end up just keep cutting it until you end up with 89 minutes of just the tightest bits that work. If it's any longer, it probably, falls in its own bloat, or they're just going to have too many clunkers. So you have to just kind of pare it down to the tightest, funniest things that you can get. And I think that's what Airplane does.
I was thinking about it a lot in that, I mean, this is, in the book, Surely You Can't Be Serious, they talk about just like density of jokes and how there has to be one every, couple of seconds or something. Um, First off, that reminded me of the whammo meter that Joel Silver had. I don't know if you know about that, but he had this like chart that measured how often explosions happen in action films, and they had to meet like a certain metric for him to
I didn't
approve
know
it.
that, but I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so great.
But they had this idea in this film that it's just like a barrage, like joke, 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 joke. And I think if you take the jokes out, you'd probably have like a 20-minute movie if you also cut out all the exposition of Ted and Elaine.
But
But
what they touched on here, I mean, the real key to it is that, yeah, you have rapid fire jokes played completely straight in a completely serious setting. And that was something, that idea of doing a parody in this way is just something that I could be wrong, and you could send us letters. I can't think of anything that had done it before this in this way. And it just opens up a world of new comedy, some of which ends up being terrible, some movies by them that don't work, but it really, it shifts something in how you can make comedy movies.
yeah, there were parodies in the 70s and beyond. I mean, I think of Young Frankenstein in 74, like that's something that was a parody, but it didn't have the rapid fire jokes, and it was also filled with comedians. And I think like the comp for this and what makes Ted Knight so good in Caddyshack is that he's basically a straight guy like this.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, Mel Brooks definitely did parody stuff. I mean, Blazing Saddles as well. But yeah, you're right. It's different because there's comedy actors. It never feels serious. Whereas this movie, everything about it. What I love is, we will talk about it later, but that's what I mean. The score. I mean, they hire the cinematographer who had done. I think he had actually shot the Poseidon Adventure. So they have a cinematographer who is steeped in actually filming disaster movies. You hire Elmer Bernstein to do the score, who is known for doing grand scores. So you're surrounding it with, this is a very serious thing in the way you're supposed to perceive it, but everything about it is stupid. I just think that is a really, really smart way to handle this. And when it works, it works really, really well.
That's what I think makes it such an interesting throwdown with Caddyshack, is that for as ridiculous as this film is, it's well made and it's very well thought out. Whereas Caddyshack is like, throw it at the wall and let's see what sticks. And I think there is probably a lot of like, I can see these guys just sitting in a room trying to make each other laugh, because I mean, your batting average isn't going to be 1,000 with this many jokes, but like hiring Elmore Bernstein and these people who are serious, I think that goes a long way in showing what these guys wanted to do and how they kind of figured it out as they went, because it didn't, like you said, it didn't necessarily start that way, but it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
And They put in the work.
And I think what it also shows you is how much people that we assume are serious want to do something that's dumb. Like apparently Elmer Bernstein loves this movie more than anybody. They say he's just
Yeah.
laughing constantly, like he thought it was the funniest thing. So yeah, I think that people get excited to do something that's dumb every once in a while. And the other thing too that they talked about, the hardest part of directing, even especially someone like Robert Stack, was that because they knew they were in a comedy, they were trying to be funny, and they kept having to stop and be like, that's not what we want from you. We need you to be the actor that you are. Just do not mess with the leave the line straight. That's the only way it's going to work. And it turns out Leslie Nielsen, of course, was born for this. I mean, it's just like the thing he was born to do.
What's great about Leslie Nielsen is that, and really, Lloyd Bridges is in this, and he'd go on to do more comedy after it, and they really don't have to change anything. They just do what they've been doing, and somebody just discovered you can throw them into a comedy, and that makes it super funny.
We talked about this in the past. That's how Jason Statham gets by. That's the same principle. If you take someone who's very serious but put them in something funny, that alone can be funny.
Is Jason Statham the action Leslie Nielsen?
He might be.
Can I tell you, I just discovered he has an Instagram. I had no idea for some reason, but I just found it, and it's fantastic.
Can't even imagine what is on Jason Statham's.
It's like him and his kid at the beach all the time, or at a pool in a resort in like Mexico or something. Yeah.
I saw it be random pictures of weapons and who knows? I don't know what the hell who knows what Jason Statham's Instagram.
Just a normal guy. His stars are just like us. One of the things I want to say about this is that, we talked about the directing and the writing, and I think one of the big things I felt when I watched it is that because of the pace of it, it's very much like a TikTok movie 25 years before TikTok. It feels a lot like clips, like, and it is. I mean, there's so many clips of this online, but it almost feels like that, like segments that you can just watch on their own. It's quite forward thinking, even though I know it wasn't intentional, but the pace of it is like nothing that really came before it, as far as I know. But nowadays you have, like, I think of Family Guy a lot, and I know you hate Family Guy,
which is liberally taken from both of these movies, but Airplane, it's in like direct segments of Airplane.
Yeah. But the pacing of it and the cutting to the jokes, like the rapid fire, really.
Yeah. I think it's a perfect
South Park too.
Yeah, it's a great example. Like, I don't love Family Guy necessarily, but you can clearly see the influence of Airplane on Family Guy. There's just no doubt about
it. Yeah. And that's what I mean. There wasn't really anything to compare this to before this, as far as the pace of it. And I just find it, it's innovative in that way, but it's left such a mark that it's really.
We're talking about taking it seriously, even the little things. Whereas the people at the beginning of the movie doing the boarding announcements, that's an actual couple, and they are the real people that do those announcements at the airport, which I just thought was such a crazy touch.
Yeah. But that's the meticulousness of it. And you wouldn't think that any of that is there in watching it, but it really goes to show you how committed they were to refining and making it authentic. And
two styles of comedy for us. Like you said, Caddyshack is basically just, throw a bunch of guys in a room with a lot of drugs and see what happens. Whereas, yes, comedy like Airplane has to be meticulously planned out. You have to have a structure, a serious structure, so you can be that stupid, or it's not really going to work.
The serious business of comedy. That's what it is. Talk about Robert Hayes a little bit. I really don't know him for much beyond this. I mean, he's had a working career, but this is clearly the top of the mountain for Robert Hayes, and this is a role that was written for David Letterman. Did you know that?
Did know that. And he walked away from it, which I find even more amazing, that he had screen tested for it, but he's the one that kind of decided he didn't want to do it. So he walked away.
I don't know how it would have been with Letterman in that role. You know,
I don't know. The
Hayes
fact
is
that
kind
no
of
one
perfect.
knew who Letterman was at the time, really. So yeah, I really don't know. What a strange what if, what that might have done for his career.
It fits with his tone of comedy, though, I think, in sort of like that deadpan. I mean, you look at the Letterman show, it's very
Yeah.
much like that.
I could absolutely see
So,
why they wrote it with him, like had him in mind when they were writing. I don't know if they had him in mind when they were writing it, but obviously they were looking to him to do the part. Yeah, you can obviously see why that might have worked.
I think Robert Hayes is perfect because he sort of straddles the line between that serious actor like Leslie Nielsen and the comedic side of everybody else. And he just plays it down the middle, which I think is like perfect for this role because it almost makes him seem a little lost, which is kind of what his character is the whole time. So yeah, that's good casting. I don't know if Letterman could have pulled that off the same way. I think he's too funny. And I don't know how funny Robert Hayes is, but he's just the right amount in this.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean, Letterman would almost be a little too Caddyshack, where there'd probably be one too many eyebrow raises or just something to kind
Yeah.
of take you out of the moment. Uh, so yeah, I agree with you that. Here's the craziest thing, we're talking about casting. The craziest thing that I found out regarding who was going to get parts or not, that the part that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was going to play, I mean, it ends up playing, was written
Yeah.
for Pete Rose.
Yeah.
Did you know that? That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Like, I don't.
Yeah. That's amazing.
That is amazing.
He's I can't imagine it. I mean, Kareem is so perfect. I mean, he's so deadpan and just
Yeah,
he is
I
great.
can't. The reason it works so well too, which is maybe why it could have worked for Pete Rose, but why it works so well with Kareem, because Kareem also had a reputation of being very serious. That was
Yeah.
part of his whole persona, where he wasn't that friendly. Honestly, that was the thing about him. And so putting him in this movie really works in both ways, where he kind of gets to show a little bit of being funny, but he gets to be the serious person that we think that he is in the movie, where he grabs that kid by the shirt and talks about how he's, busting his butt up and down the court. I just think that's such a great scene for him.
And in the reason they wanted to put a sports athlete or an athlete in that role is because in the original, in the 0 Hour film, it's a football player who was cast in it. So I appreciate that commitment to continuing I mean, that's one of the nuances that, I came into today thinking like this is nuts and just all over the place. But the more we're talking about it, I'm realizing it's not nuts at all. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
it's well
so
thought out.
just honed in.
The other
Yeah.
part that they were going to cast, Helen Reddy as the nun, as the singing nun, but they couldn't because they wanted to cast her because she had played that same part, I think, in Airport in 75, the movie in
Right.
75. So they wanted her, but the makers of that movie basically blocked it. And they said they couldn't cast her in the same role because it was too much like their movie. So they had to not bring her in, and they end up having to recast that role. So yeah, they thought really hard about making it as serious as possible. Or
Well,
I'm sorry,
in
not as
another
serious as
cat.
possible, but as much of a one-to-one comparison. They wanted you to be thinking of
Right.
those movies as much as possible.
Yeah. And that's so smart. I mean, it's just very smart. Another casting thing is that Barbara Billingsley is the Jive lady who played June Cleaver, but that was originally intended for Harriet Nelson from Ozzie and Harriet. So they just went
Really?
from one sitcom mom to another, which I
I
think
will
is
say that there are
very smart.
certain things in this movie. I think it's anything with comedy, but because you're dealing with a snapshot in time. There's many things in this movie that work if you know the people. It works better. Uh, that falls a little bit. They said the idea that you would laugh that Barbara Billingsley is cast. The guy in the original in the beginning that gets in Stryker's cab, what most people have no idea who that is, but he's actually was like a California politician, like a Republican who was like a
Really?
yeah, his big thing was about bringing spending down. So he was like a really fiscally conservative, he's a well-known fiscal conservative California politician. And so the joke they did it, so they asked him if he would be in it. The joke is, of course, he sits in the cab and he's just wasting money. And he's like, I'll
Yeah.
give him 5 more minutes. Like that was an inside joke for people who knew who that was. which we don't. I mean, most people would have no idea, so that doesn't work at all. Ethel Merman, of course, is a joke. I watched this movie with my youngest son, who had never seen it before, and it's like, I mean, Ethel Merman means nothing to him at all. It barely means something to us, even when it came out. But yeah, so those kinds of little things just don't work anymore.
Yeah, they make a Reagan joke, which is very timely
Right.
because he's, the governor and on his way to the White House. I guess he would have been elected at that point,
Yeah.
or in at least in campaigning. But talk about the writing and something that kind of bugs me is the flashback to Ted and Elaine meeting because it's like 10 minutes long.
Mhm.
And that feels super out of place with the rapid fire nature of everything else. And it feels so like everything they thought of had to be crammed in there. That's like the one thing that kind of sticks out to me. And it's funny. I mean, it's great. They actually, speaking of timely, they do a send up of Saturday Night Fever, which is very much of that moment or kind of on its way out, I guess. But
I was thinking about that. Even my son brought this up. When I didn't get to look into it, like, I don't know how they got the okay to use the song. I mean, they sped it up a little bit. I don't know if that changes the rights or something, but I actually am surprised they were able to use it at all.
I think somebody else sang it. And I think if it's much cheaper if you can buy like the music license, but then you re-record it. I might be wrong, but I think about other films where I've heard things like that, and I assume it's a cost-cutting thing where you just get some nobody or some, like, session singer to sing it instead. So that yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I would say you're right that that sequence is paced differently than the other ones, but it does have, strangely enough, one of my favorite parts in the movie, and I don't even know why I like it so much. It's when the guy
Oh,
gets
what is
stabbed
it?
in the back and he's like
Yeah.
trying to point to it and she's dancing. Like, I just find that really, I laugh every time. I don't even know why I think it's so funny, but I really do.
I love the extended Girl Scout fight because one of them hits the camera at one point and they don't bother to, like, reshoot it or anything, but the camera just shakes. I mean, that's like a minute long, you know? So everything in this film goes from it's either like joke, 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 or it's like a setup that's really long that pays off. Like the Mayo Clinic phone call,
I totally
that's really
forgot that the
long.
Mayo Clinic had mayonnaise in the background. Like, it's one of those things, like, I
Yeah,
don't even know if I clocked it the first time I saw it. Like, oh, Jesus.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like a minute and a half just to build to give me ham on five and hold the mayo. But then there's also the like the Hare Krishna bit, that's over and over again until the big payoff. So
Yeah, another thing,
uh,
whether or not it ages well, right? I had to kind of explain to my kid that that was what airports were like back then. There were a bunch of like fringe religious organizations that hung out in airports. I mean, that's obviously something we don't have anymore. So I had to tell them that was something that actually happened. But again, sets up one of my favorite bits, which is when Robert Stack comes in and just lays waste to all the guys in the airport. That's never not
yeah.
funny.
And Jim Abrams is actually one of the Hare Krishnas.
Those Hare Krishnas, I mean, think about the guys that play all of those religious fanatics. I mean, I mean, we know the guy who ends up playing Ted Isuzu in all those commercials,
David
but
Leisure?
yeah,
Yeah.
David Leisure's in it. But the other one, oh God, I'm drawing a blank on his name. He was the president in 24. That's what I know him from.
Is it Dennis Haysbert?
No,
No.
not the other guy, the bad guy.
I've never seen it. I don't know.
You never saw 24?
No. No. Well, one of them was I can't remember his name, but he's like a really famous stuntman.
Sorry, Gregory Itzin. That's his name.
Okay.
And he played
Okay.
like the really bad guy in 24 for a couple of seasons. So,
Okay.
yeah, I didn't recognize him until I rewatched it now.
So he got some work out of this. Went on to
He's
have
had he's
bigger
had a
and better
pretty
things.
decent career. He's been in quite a few things.
We mentioned all the street people in this. Oh, just back to your point is that there are so many things in this that don't happen today. Like, just anybody getting into an airport, basically the
Right.
flight attendant getting into the cockpit, all of the drinking. Like, and I was thinking, I've flown from New York to LA a million times and back, and I've never gotten a meal. and they're flying halfway, and they like immediately get dinner. Is that something that happened in 1980?
I think the 70s were a good time for flying.
You get smoke, you get
Yeah, it's a
fish,
great time.
yeah. Uh, I just want to mention Julie Haggerty because she is just uh, pitch perfect in this. She is such a good job of playing straight comedy. That's really almost all I know her for. And you know, Albert Brooks knew that in 1985 when he cast her in Made or Lost in America, in which she's brilliant, and everything she's done after
Yeah,
that
it's
is
almost hard to pinpoint what makes her great, but it's like a singular thing that only she can do. And I
yeah,
don't even know how to like put my finger on what it is exactly. There's like a certain blankness,
yeah.
but yet it's an earnestness. Like yeah, I can't put it into words. I don't really want to try because it'll seem stupid. But yeah, she has a certain way of being that is just her.
Yeah, there's this delivery that's always the same, whether it's something funny or it's something serious, and that's what makes it funny, is that she's serious or in the middle, I don't know, but she's so good in this, and I know a lot of other people were, you know, in the running for that role, but I think they made the right
Yeah,
choice.
and this was her movie debuts.
Was? I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
So since you mentioned one sad thing about Caddyshack, I have to mention one sad thing here. I mean, my favorite character in all of Airplane was Johnny, the guy that works in the he's in the airport with the people trying to bring the plane in.
Steven
I
Stucker.
Yeah, Steven Zucker is his name, but he was yeah. I've always thought he was the funniest character in the movie. He has my favorite lines, just like, "What do you make of this?" Like that's all this. Like I think about those things all the time, and I've done that joke enough where it's just stupid at this point. Where someone asked me that question, but all the random things that he does, he's just such a funny guy. And what I found out is I didn't realize how young he had died. Not too long after this, but he actually was one of the first actors to die of AIDS in like '86, which is just really tragic. I mean, he was incredibly funny in this, and it's a shame that he didn't stay around long enough to do more things.
Yeah, I think he was, like, in his mid-30s
He
when he
was,
passed away,
yeah,
and just it's so easy in this film of everybody playing it straight for him to play it the way he plays it
yeah.
and steal the
You're right.
show.
That's the thing that makes him stand out. He's the one person who's not playing it straight. He's just ridiculous, and it completely works.
And he steals every scene because he's for as good as the straight playing actors are. This is a comedy, and it's almost like comic relief from the straight comedy where he's just pure funny. And yeah, really, really love it. Also, Mike Ehrmantraut, Jonathan Banks from Breaking Bad is in this as one of
The air
the
traffic controllers, I guess. Is that what
air
it was?
traffic
I guess
controllers.
that's what it
Yeah,
was.
yeah. So just there's some pretty great casting in this all
Yeah,
around.
it's just a mix of yeah, because there's so many rapid fire jokes. I mean, it's such a good mix of what is considered, possible kind of highbrow or lowbrow wordplay, but just some, dumb jokes like, the shit hitting the fan. It's like literally, just one of those things that in a way never gets
Hate it.
old.
Oh,
Hey,
I hate it.
do you hate that? I just think that's because it's so obvious. It's
Yeah.
so stupid that it gets me every time.
That's the thing is everything is so big. I mean, it's serious, kind of like there's still a serious tone to it, but it's a joke. And I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's just so rapid fire funny, and it's like taking itself so seriously with it's like the serious business of comedy, like I said, and that's kind of what this is. And e- everybody in it is perfectly cast. And it's man, I really
It, and
came
it's
into
and
this
it's cool.
thinking
Yeah.
I came into this thinking one thing, like a Caddyshack all day, but man, I'm really kind of changing my
Yeah, I mean, an
mind
airplane
mid-show
is.
here.
Obviously, we're going to get into this later too, but airplane is just quotable for days. I mean, someone literally this week said something where they said Shirley something to me, and I responded and I said, "Don't call me Shirley," and I'm like, that never. I okay. because as I'm watching this movie with my son, I said to him that that is probably one of the most iconic bits of all time, and he thought it was stupid in a way. He's like, no one says that. He's like, I was just saying, I'm like, they did. I'm like, and people do. And I said, and now that you've heard it, when it comes up, there's no way you won't be able to reflexively respond in that way. And it happened to me literally 2 days later. Like, it's almost like a reflex you can't help. And even if they don't get it and you seem like an idiot, you can't help yourself because it's so good. Don't Call Me Shirley will
Thing is,
never get
everybody
old.
gets it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. Everyone will get it.
It's the name of the book. I mean, that's how impactful that line is. And, there's all that wordplay, like smart wordplay throughout. It's not just physical comedy or
Hospital, what
like
is it?
slapstick
It's a big
comedy.
building with patients, but that's not important right now. I mean, those kinds of
Yeah.
things. I was thinking about this, and I think that those wordplay jokes in Airplane and snappy answers to stupid questions, the old Mad books by a guy named Al Jaffe, which I don't know if you have any memory of this
Sure.
at all. I think that those two things influenced how I deliver jokes more than anything in my life. Like I think that those two things, which is probably why most people think that I'm an asshole or a wise ass, because those two things have influenced more in the way that I respond to things than anything in my life. But I just cannot
Yeah.
help
I
it.
mean, they're like a curriculum for a life of comedy, I guess. But I mean, Airplane is just so influential. And you're right. We could quote it for days, but I think, unless you want to mention anything else, we should move on to our head-to-head comparison because I think there's a lot to compare here.
Yeah, I don't want to beat it to death. Let's go.
All right, so story effectiveness. I mean, I don't think either of them is necessarily a great story that's well told, but
No, but Airplane is a story.
that's true.
Let's
Yeah,
just put it this way: Caddyshack ends with the last line of the movie is literally we're all gonna get laid for no reason at all. There's just no connection to that line to anything that has happened up to that point in the
yeah,
movie. So I don't know. I don't know what's. So I'm pretty sure Airplane was probably more effective in terms of the story it told.
yeah. I mean, it's a very straightforward and simple narrative with just a lot of flourish thrown in with the comedy. And uh, man, see, I came into this thinking I like how Caddyshack is all over the place and how there are more characters whose minimal stories kind of intertwine to make something bigger. But I think I have to change it because the more we talk about those stories, the more they don't really make sense as like a cohesive narrative overall. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go Airplane on this too, which is surprising me in the moment, but I'm calling an audible here. Um, Characters. This one's gonna be interesting because, well, no, I think one of them really only has primarily interesting characters.
Yeah, I think in characters it has to be Caddyshack because again, Caddyshack has no script; it's all characters. So the movie
Yeah.
only rises and falls on those people and whether you like them or not. So yeah, I think it has to be Caddyshack.
There's just a lot more to latch onto with those characters. I mean, they're far more developed than anybody in Airplane because everybody in Airplane kind of comes and goes for the most part, except for like 3 or 4 people, and you don't get a lot from them. They're just delivering these lines and delivering jokes basically. So, yeah. Okay. What about tone and consistency?
I mean, I'm pretty sure Airplane wins this by default.
Yeah. Absolutely. But in Caddyshack, credit to, I believe his name is John Carruth, who was the editor, because he had a Herculean task of taking all of this cocaine-fueled footage and
I know
turning it
he
into
probably should
something.
have won the Academy Award for Best Editing that year. I don't think anybody appreciates the work he had to do, which was probably fueled by a lot of cocaine. But
Yeah. I mean, it takes cocaine to battle cocaine. Well, now this one's gonna be interesting because, uh, it's cultural staying power and iconic scenes.
Yeah, this is what I was
And
waiting to talk about. It
wow.
is this one's so hard. Like the Late Show with Colbert literally had a a scene from Caddyshack in the monologue this week, and
I'll have
so
to ask my neighbor Stephen Colbert about that.
yeah. So I mean, I don't think a month goes by where one of these movies isn't referenced in some way. I just, and obviously I know you're on the social medias more than I am, but I'm sure there's just memes all day, every day.
Yeah, every part of every of both of these films feels like it can be a clip or I mean, maybe more so Airplane, but and the other thing is that Caddyshack, it has this wide cultural appeal, but it's also very niche to golf, in a way too, so I don't know if that makes it less broad?
Yeah, I think you hit it. For those reasons, I was going to lean a little more towards Airplane. Um, but yeah, I mean, those are kind of the reasons. But both of them have just had huge cultural impacts on our culture and comedy itself. It's almost hard to overstate how influential they have been.
What about something we didn't think about in Caddyshack is the Kenny Loggins song, which I think transcends just golf.
Here's another thing that we didn't mention: that the Gopher was made by John Dykstra, who was basically the main special effects guy from Star Wars. They went to ILM and had them do like the thunderstorm scene, that kind of stuff. But they
Yeah,
also created
yeah.
the Gopher was animatronic, and so just know that there was some serious Star Wars special effects going on in Caddyshack. Who knew?
I mean, as far as quotable lines from Caddyshack go, Bill Murray in that scene, I don't think the hard stuff's going to come down for a while. Like, that has maybe as many quotable moments as Airplane does, but I think they can't be applied as widely as the stuff in Airplane. I mean, they're
That's true.
almost more contextual to golf.
But
So,
you're right to bring it back
uh,
to Kenny Loggins. I mean, you're right. You know, the reason that's important is not only because that song was hugely popular, but it kind of shifted Kenny Loggins' career, where he started writing more songs for movies. And then he ends up writing the song for Top Gun. And I mean, this becomes like a real second act for him. So in that way, that is very influential. At least to Kenny Loggins, it is.
yeah, he's like the Leslie Nielsen of music in this movie. That's something we didn't mention is that Leslie Nielsen's career after this, and we'll maybe talk about it in the questions we ask, but just, he was still doing the stuff he did, but the comedy just came and became
Yeah, I don't want to bog
a
this
dominant.
down by talking about too much extraneous stuff, but yeah, Leslie Nielsen. I mean, to me, those 6 episodes of Police Squad to me are almost as influential as Airplane in itself too. Leading to the Naked Gun. People know the movie The Naked Gun, but those episodes of Police Squad, if anyone can find them, they're 6 episodes. I mean, going back and watching those now, I mean, that's really when Leslie Nielsen starts to take off, and everything in those episodes it is just so influential. And it takes the literal wordplay just to the farthest place that it can go. It's so good.
He's like he's like this doctor in Airplane, but a little more elevated with he's more comedic, but he still is comedic based on that seriousness at its root, which is just and then that's The Naked Gun and yeah, just well, we'll talk more about him. So so who's your winner for cultural staying power? You going Airplane?
I think I have to go Airplane by like a hair.
Yeah, I was going to call it a tie, but I just think thinking more about, you know,
And maybe just because
the
it's more
wide appeal.
influential to me personally. Maybe that's why it wins by a hair. That I just think I quote Airplane more than anything. So
I just think Caddyshack is a little more honed in on the golfing community. I mean, I can't imagine, even if you're a kid, that you haven't seen Caddyshack if you play golf, and that if you're out on the course, you're not quoting it. I mean, 100% of people who play golf quote Caddyshack on the course. I guarantee it. But how many people play golf versus how many people have seen Airplane, so yeah.
And you're right. Two other things about this. I mean, Airplane was much more successful. I mean, Airplane made a ridiculous amount of money, over $100 million on a $3 million budget. I mean, Caddyshack made 40 something million, which right there kind of goes to show you that the niche nature of what Caddyshack was just doesn't have the same popular appeal of what Airplane is. But we also failed to mention, which I want to make sure that I mentioned, is that both of these movies had god awful, terrible sequels that
Yeah,
no one actually likes. So
yeah.
they went to the well again and just could not. I mean, Airplane's different because Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker were not even involved in the sequel, so that's why that failed. Caddyshack's a little bit different, but I mean, a lot of those guys weren't involved in it either. And in terms of the actors, Chevy Chase is the only one that came back. But yeah, so I just think that's worth noting that both of them tried to go back to the well again, and you can't recreate magic of something that's almost impossible to quantify. You almost don't know why these movies worked so well. So when you go back in the lab and try to put it back together, you can't.
And I think since you mentioned that, this is really the beginning of trying to cash in on sequels. I mean, there weren't a lot of sequels other than like The Godfather in the 70s, but really this starts that trend in the 80s with, I mean, especially in sports comedies, you see it with Major League, and then,
Well, hang
Hot
on.
Shots, all the
Was the Bad
parodies.
News Bears and Breaking Training, did that come out before?
Oh,
The sequel of Bad News Bears
probably in
must
the
have come out
70s.
in the late 70s, right? Because the original was like
Yeah,
76. So maybe they started it.
yeah. Maybe they did. Maybe, yeah, maybe this is just kind of an extension of that. But I mean, start of the 80s, and the 80s are when they really lean into trying to get blood from a stone, basically. So yeah, maybe they didn't start it, but they certainly were at the beginning of it, and made
Yeah.
it okay to try to do that, and, and basically fail every time is what
Yeah,
happens.
I do think, I mean, comedy is a hard thing to make sequels to because again, it's like you catch these moments in time, these kind of lightning in a bottle things, and it's hard to know what the formula is to make that work.
But you look at cultural staying power, and because you just mentioned sequels, we have a new Scary Movie installment coming out this year in a month, and that's a pure parody of all of the horror genre. So that's another thing that you probably wouldn't get that if not for Airplane. So it's really it just continues, and I don't know if you still have as much of a sports comedy legacy. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe like Balls of Fury wouldn't happen without
Well,
without
actually, there's a new movie.
Caddyshack.
There's a new movie just came out just now by the Farrelly brothers called Balls Up. I think it's like a
Oh, yeah, yeah,
comedy.
yeah.
Mark Wahlberg's in it because he's in everything.
Let me tell you, not a win of the week. That movie sucks.
Yeah,
Did you watch it?
I did not watch it. No, I did not
I
watch it.
don't know why, like, I'm too Christian for Boogie Nights Wahlberg is all of a sudden leaning into, like, adult humor, but that's what this movie
It's
is.
hard to know what Mark Wahlberg's going to do. I don't know, but we do know that everything he does is going to be on a streaming service. That's all that we know. We don't know what it's going to be,
Yeah,
but he's going to have a movie every 6 months on some streaming service.
man. Yeah, I mean, if you like him, and they're usually pretty serviceable for the most part, but, uh, Balls Up, terrible. Paul Walter Hauser saves it because he's the best. Okay. Let's move on to our questions. Each week we ask 5 questions to sort of help us figure out which way we're leaning with this stuff, and they're just fun. Which film is more rewatchable to you? And, this is a tough one.
It's really tough one, but I think I already kind of told you because I watched Airplane so many times.
I think I'm gonna go with Caddyshack on this one because it's such a mess, but I kinda love that about it, and I get a little exhausted from the joke of Airplane. I mean, I would rewatch both of them, and again, like, my metric for this is, would I buy this on physical media? And I do own both of them, so, uh, it's kinda neck and neck, but I think just for character I would watch
I
Caddyshack
mean, look,
over
if
Airplane.
both of these are on cable and I stumble across them, if that was a thing that exists anymore, I would stop and watch both of them.
Yeah.
But if I was going to put a movie in and watch it, it would probably be Airplane.
Again, Airplane was designed unintentionally for our modern time because that's something you can throw on in the background that Netflix would love because you don't have to pay attention to it, but you can drop in when you look up from your phone and you're gonna get, like, 3 jokes in the span of a minute. So it really works with the attention span that everybody has developed from technology. So, yeah, I mean, maybe in that way it's rewatchable, but I try to be somebody who wants to focus on story and characters a little more, but I'm not above putting on something like that either. Okay, would you wanna hang out with one of the leads from these films? Or anybody?
Uh, I actually wouldn't mind hanging out with Ty Webb from Caddyshack. I wouldn't want to hang out with Chevy
Same.
Chase, but I would want to hang out with Ty Webb.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly who I put down. I don't think there's anybody else that
I think it's anybody else.
uh, maybe Al Cervic, Rodney Dangerfield's character for
I no, no,
I
I
assume
couldn't.
he would just give me a bunch of money.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind
That's
being around him every once in a while, but I would not want to hang out with that guy.
yeah, not
By the
actively
way, we didn't
connecting
even
with him.
mention Rodney Dangerfield's dancing moves,
Yeah,
which are classic.
or his golf bag, which
Yeah.
had a phone, a car radio, all kinds of stuff in it. Okay, is this a career peak or valley for any of the main players?
I mean, I think we discussed it was probably a career peak for Robert Hayes,
Yeah,
but
Kenny
not really for
Loggins?
anybody else. I mean, this was kind of really the beginning for a lot of people.
What about Michael O'Keefe? He's coming
Oh
off an
wow,
Oscar that year.
you're right.
Yeah, I mean, he's worked steadily since this, and he's actually on Your Friends and Neighbors, so he's in a lot of prestige stuff, but he's not top billed or he's not, you know, uh, none of that stuff has the gravitas that Caddyshack kind of has in the culture, so I don't know. About Leslie Nielsen. I mean, this kind of
Really, because the
starts.
Naked Gun, I mean, it starts it. But realize it's more the start of things. It's not
Yeah,
a peak. I mean,
that's
to me, the
true.
Naked Gun is probably the peak. I mean, that was the biggest movie that he did. He was the main star of it, and so if I was going to pick it, it would probably be that one.
Zucker, Abram Zucker?
It was their first movie. I feel like, even though I don't love the stuff they did afterwards, I mean, in terms of, yeah, I don't know. It feels like they went on to do other things, even though it's probably their most popular movie. But it's hard to say.
Yeah. I don't think they're gonna make anything as good as this. Well, maybe The Naked Gun, I guess. I mean, it's
Yeah, they make Naked Gun. I mean, some people love Top Secret. I'm not one of those people.
you think they could do a remake of Airplane the way they did The Naked Gun?
No, not at all.
Yeah. Untouchable, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you could
And that's
never
the
do
thing,
it.
because disaster movies themselves are almost parodies at this point. It would be really hard to do.
Yeah.
I mean, like Snakes on a Plane is like a parody of itself. So I don't know how you could do Airplane now, uh, unless you tried to do it like Anaconda style, where it's a
Right.
meta parody of. But yeah, I don't see how you could do it.
I mean, we just don't, there everybody says we don't make comedies anymore, and I can't imagine there's one, even if we did, that would be as kinetic as that and as, like, acceptable with some of the unacceptable things in it.
Yeah, you know something too. This is totally off topic, but think about it sometimes where this early stuff. I don't know if it's because we saw it when we were young. I don't know what it is about it that we really like it. When people try to redo it now, this is like I don't really love Family Guy, which to me is similar in style in some ways to Airplane. But there was a TV show that came out a few years ago called Angie Tribeca. I don't know if you heard of that show.
Yeah. Yeah, with Rashida Jones.
So Rashida Jones started, and I really like Rashida Jones, and it to me it seemed like an updated version of the Police Squad. Honestly, that's really what it was. It was a police show and it was a parody, and I found it really hard to watch. Like I just did not think it was funny, even though in reality it really hit a lot of the same beats that Police Squad did. It took a lot of things literally. It was like very much in that vein. and I still to this day don't know why it didn't work, and I don't know what I didn't like about it, but I really didn't like it, and I don't know if that kind of comedy just doesn't work the same way anymore. I don't know if that's all that it is, or that there's just some magical thing that isn't there anymore. It was just really hard for me to figure out why it
The
didn't work.
casting?
I thought she was really good in it. So I said most of the cast was good. So but it just there's something missing, and I don't know if it's just me thinking, oh, they did this stuff better back when I was a kid, or it's just something you hold on to because you remember it so well. But this kind of comedy, very very hard to do in modern times.
I wonder if we're so self-aware now and uh, we can't recreate what I think is important with every character in Airplane is there's a bit of an obliviousness
Hmm.
to everything, to the way they're like the responding to things, because that's kind of the joke is like the way they respond isn't balanced with what they're responding to. So I wonder if we're too self-aware now to have that kind of uh take on. I don't know. Who's to say?
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
I think about it a
can't.
lot. It's try to find. It's hard to pinpoint. It's the same way that I told you I loved I'm gonna get you sucker, and I really don't enjoy the scary movies at all. I don't think those are funny at all. So I don't know. It's just when I saw it that kind of influences how I feel about it. I don't know.
I think what parody has is that obliviousness now that I'm thinking about it, because I look at the Naked Gun that we just saw from Akiva Schaffer, and you know, Liam Neeson had that. He had that obliviousness that Leslie Nielsen has. And Scary Movie, just because that's coming out and I just saw the trailer for it, has a little bit of that too, but that's really played for comedy by comedic actors. So maybe it doesn't have the same obliviousness, but that's certainly an element of it that's there as well. That sort of adds to the comedy. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe we're just too self-serious and uh,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
don't know. All right. Is this a career peak for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? I mean, the Lakers won that year, and he gets to be in a movie.
It's possible. I wouldn't say an absolute no. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it might be. Um, okay, next question, the big one. Would one of these films be better if Steven Spielberg directed it?
I love this question this time because here's another fun fact that I found out that Christopher Lee was supposed to be in Airplane and he turned it
Would be
down
perfect.
because he was working on 1941. And he said that was one of his biggest regrets that he didn't that he was in 1941, which was a giant flop. Now, as we know, I love Steven Spielberg a lot more than you do. I do not think that he could handle either of these movies and do them
No.
well.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's no way. I mean, uh, I would argue that Caddyshack in the hands of a different director could be a better movie, but there's no way Airplane would would ever be better than it is now. Um, okay. Would either film be better if you swapped lead actors? And you kind of alluded to this, and maybe not necessarily the straight lead because I don't know who the lead is in Caddyshack, but
That's fair.
kind of go
Uh,
across the cast.
yeah, said other than Chevy Chase, I do not think that you could uh, swap any of these actors and have it work.
What about Lloyd Bridges and Ted Knight? At least Ted Knight in Airplane, I think, could be kind of fun. I don't know if Lloyd Bridges could do Smails with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
anger,
right. I mean, old school Ted Knight. You're right. I mean, he definitely could handle that. Um, yeah, that's a good call.
but again, Lloyd Bridges just doesn't have the ire that Ted Knight has as Smails, so I don't think he could bring just that like seeing red aspect to it that Ted Knight has in literally every scene. The guy is just like so put upon by his own making in every moment. Okay, let's move on to our poll results from our online voting for this week. And this is where I tell you we are at Movie Throwdown Pod on social media. Every week we post a poll where you can help us pick next week's winner. Let us know what you think is the better film. And if you tell us why, we'll read it on the show. This week, 33 votes. You want to make a guess?
I guess I'm gonna have to say Airplane. I think that's probably for the same reason we talked about already.
22 to 11 in favor of Airplane. So, not, they didn't run away with it, but 2/3 of the vote, and it makes sense. I think, after talking all about it, and I think, we kind of have a clear winner here. You're going Airplane, yes?
I think I'm going Airplane because in a way it's like it shows you how good Airplane is because like there's Airplane and The Naked Gun, and we talked about how hard it is for people to replicate it, and it's like even they couldn't replicate it. I mean, Naked Gun, they really kind of matched it
Yeah,
probably,
right.
but after that, I mean, even they couldn't come close to making a
Yeah,
movie as good as Airplane.
that's a good point. Yeah, I'm with you. I came into this thinking I was gonna go Caddyshack, but the more we talked through it, the more I realized that Airplane, even though I think the story is kind of, like, minimal and not as and the characters aren't as engrossing as Caddyshack, I just think it's a better made film,
Yeah, I'm
and
gonna go
it's
one more
enjoyable.
for you, which I just remembered. So Nick at Night used to have a late night thing that they used to do where they used to take old movies, like old noir movies or old crime movies. And for some reason, I remember DOA as a specific one, where they would take the movie and they would show it, but they would change the dialogue, where they would other people read the dialogue over the movie as a comedy.
Yeah.
I wish
Huh.
I could remember what it was called. It was a specific program they used to have, but that literally exists only because Airplane existed. Uh, so it stretches even to that where someone where they would do that every week. They would take an old movie and they would just like rewrite dialogue for it to be stupid.
That reminds me a little bit of, what is it called? Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, the Steve Martin film. Remember that?
Yeah, right.
They just cut him into noir films and
Yeah,
made it a comedy. Yeah,
and that was okay.
interesting.
Carl
Yeah,
Reiner, yeah, did that.
yeah, that's right. Yep. Okay, so our winner for this week is Airplane. This was an interesting and difficult throwdown, but we got there, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed talking about these. Next week, I don't know if we can keep that energy up. It's going to be intense, but in a different way because we're going to have a throwdown between two films that are really about people who want something really badly and kind of push themselves to get it, possibly to their detriment. We're going to talk about from 2010, Darren Aronofsky's Black Swan, and it's going up against Damien Chazelle's Whiplash from 2014. And I think these are fairly comparable films. One leans a little more horror, but at their core, they're both about somebody who really is determined to succeed at their craft and at all costs. So, yeah, I think it's going to be good. So do join us for that. And again, follow us online and vote on our polls. We're Movie Throwdown Pod on social media. And you can find our polls posting all week. So do that and then come back and join us next week when we talk about Black Swan versus Whiplash. We'll see you then. So long.